Okay, now welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of my Kirk Cousins video. I don't normally do part 1, part 2s, but I don't necessarily, I'm kind of trying to stay away from exorbitantly long videos. I want to try to break them up. So this is going to be my attempt at giving you guys part 2. Part 1, we covered a lot as far as my opinions on player development, the 2 glaring issues that Washington has becoming, and the reason as to why they're not a football franchise known for sustained success. If you guys missed any of that, go back and watch part 1. Now, taking a look at part 2 going into this, we're going to be looking at one of the major glaring reasons as to why I had decided that not necessarily keeping Kirk Cousins would be a franchise-friendly situation. I've already discussed the negotiation situation in this football franchise, in this franchise tag going into 2016, and obviously the high watermark of this negotiation process being that high dollar value, looking at about roughly starting at about $24 million. When you guys talk about paying him his money, that's a lot of money for somebody who's got great statistics that are backing him up for just this one season, and has the potential to be doing that throughout his career. But I also listed some reasons as to why I don't necessarily, as to why I think getting rid of him would be a good idea. So moving on into another facet, another side of the Rubik's Cube, if you will. One of the major reasons why I have not necessarily been a supporter of Kirk Cousins staying here has been our decision to put the franchise tag on Kirk and the ramifications that come with that. One of the other major ramifications with doing that is that if you do sign him, it's going to be the cap hit that he is going to command when you keep him. Now, some of you are going to sit there and roll your eyes and say, you know what, if you want a good high-caliber quarterback, you're going to have to pay to get him. I understand that argument. However, in a lot of cases, in most cases, it's a trap. It's a pitfall. It's a burden. It's a burden that keeps your team from having sustained success. How many quarterbacks are out there can you guys name that have signed contracts way beyond their ability and their means? A lot of them. There's a laundry list of them. I'm not going to talk about all of them. There's not enough time in the day for me to sit down and devote that kind of research. Okay, I'm not a guru for statistics in that fashion. There are other individuals who've made that argument. I'm not going to go on that here, but I am going to talk a little bit about that in one of the areas of stats and high cap demanding quarterbacks that actually I tend to pay attention to. One of the articles I had read that kind of sustained my argument was put out by SB Nation, and it was put out, I can't remember how long, it was like a year ago. A year ago, before we franchise tagged him, I read this article, and I actually found that again, went back and looked at it, and I just kind of shook my head because in a lot of ways this article is absolutely true, and it is honestly the basis and the foundation of this second video. And one of those things is, and I'll read one of the paragraphs that I read in there. Since Steve Young's championship 1994 season, only 4 other quarterbacks have eaten up 10% of their team's salary cap. Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, and Brett Favre and Tom Brady. Okay, those are the only quarterbacks since Steve Young's 1994 season that have been able to eat up more than 10% of their football franchise's salary cap and have gone on to win a championship. That's it. So since 1994 to 2017, okay, there's only 5. Actually, 5 quarterbacks. I don't know why I put 4 in there, but there's 5. There's 5 quarterbacks that have moved on since 1994 to win a Super Bowl whose quarterbacks have eaten up more than 10%. Okay, Eli Manning, when he won in 2011, he took up 17% of that football franchise's cap. Peyton Manning in 2006, when he won, 10.4%. Brett Favre in 96 was 10.2%. And of course, last but not least, was Tom Brady, who ate up a whopping 11%. Just to throw one individual out there, Russell Wilson, when he won his Super Bowl, he was only taking up 0.49% of his team's salary cap when they won. He was on that rookie deal. Tom Brady would go on to win in 2001. He was making, I believe, taking up at about 0.47% of the salary cap. Now, I had mentioned Tom Brady before. That was 2015. The Tom Brady that I'm referring to now is in 2001. That was when he only ate up about 0.4%. These guys were on rookie deals when this happened. So kind of getting at the vibe here of what I'm trying to talk about, what I think our football franchise is actually trying to do. Since in 2016, out of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, all of which that count for more than 10%. So what I mean by top 5 quarterbacks, I mean by cap hit. I'm talking about the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. So since 2016, out of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, which count for more than 10% of their team's salary cap, 4 out of those 5 made the play or did not make the playoffs. Only one individual out of those 5 made the playoffs. I'm going to name all those individuals now. Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Joe Flacco, and then of course the one that actually made it was Aaron Rodgers. Okay, Aaron Rodgers making up the 5th as the only one that made the playoffs. Behind him are Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger. Both of those individuals were above the 10% mark. Now you're asking yourself, well, wait a minute, Burgundy Fly Guy. Why can't we be one of those teams that's paying more than 10% of our salary cap to our quarterback and still make it to a Super Bowl? The difference between those 7 individuals, in my opinion, is the teams in which they play for. Let's take a look at these top 6 individuals here. Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Joe Flacco. One plays for the Colts, the other plays for the Saints, the other plays for the Ravens. Okay, all of those teams are struggling teams that have paid too high a price at that quarterback position and having a difficult time working around those cap hits to be able to give them sustained success in the playoffs. Okay, you start taking a look at other football franchises, because I think there's a delimiter here. I think there's a line of demarcation here when it comes to these individuals. Okay, when it comes to these top quarterbacks that we're talking about that make that top cap hit. 3 more individuals: Aaron Rodgers for the Packers, Russell Wilson for the Seahawks, and Ben Roethlisberger for the Steelers. All of which play for much more sustainable and stable football teams with great players around them. And these teams hit their mark relatively well in free agency and in the draft, and they're able to develop their own football players. That is the difference between those 3 individuals and the 3 aforementioned individuals that are having a hard time making the playoffs but still pay a crap ton of money towards their quarterbacks. If we pay Kirk Cousins his money, then you have to think about what the percentage of that is going to go against the cap. A lot of that's going to be guaranteed money. I'm telling you right now, the $60 million guaranteed is not going to be on the table when he negotiates the second time around. That's probably not going to happen. So, you have to think about the percentage here. For at least the first 3 years, he was probably going to count for roughly 12%. 12 to 14%. At $24 million, that's going to be 14% of our salary cap. That's a Joe Flacco cap hit. That's Joe Flacco money. Okay, that is what we are working with. That is one of the ramifications for signing Kirk Cousins to a franchise tag and setting the high watermark for negotiation at $24 million. Okay, that's one of the reasons why I do not want Kirk Cousins in Washington. That's one of my arguments for getting him out. If I want sustained success in the quarterback position, I don't understand how we can do that with a 14% of our cap going towards one position. I don't understand that. A lot of these other teams aren't even necessarily doing that. We are not the Seahawks. We are not the Packers. And we are not the Steelers, ladies and gentlemen. We are right down there with the Ravens, the Colts, and the Saints. Okay, I want to get out of that. How do we get out of that? Well, we don't do that by paying Joe Flacco type numbers here. One of the other things that I kind of wanted to bring up in regards to Kirk Cousins, and I brought this up in my previous, in part 1 of this video, I talked about Kirk Cousins was not Jay Gruden's guy. He was not drafted by Jay Gruden. He was not somebody that Jay Gruden wanted to get in here. He inherited Kirk Cousins. One of the things that I think that develops sustained success is being able to have some sort of foundation at the coaching level. One of the major problems for this football franchise, and I mentioned 2 of them in my previous video. There's a third very, very glaring reason as to why this football franchise struggles the way that it does. And I didn't bring it up on my previous video because I felt it was more poignant at bringing it up later, but there is a third. The third one is the coaching carousel. You cannot have sustained success, and you cannot have sustained appearances in the playoffs and be looking at being a Super Bowl caliber football franchise if you are rotating coaches in and out, in and out, in and out. Yes, there are occasions where coaches come into football franchises when in the first 2 years they go to a Super Bowl. That happens. That does not happen for us. We are not that team. We are not any of those few teams. Out of all the 32 teams in the NFL, you can count 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 teams out of all of those that are able to do that. That's really about it. A lot of these other teams, they have a solidified coaching staff. They have a solidified GM. They have a solidified recruiting process. They have a solidified owner, and all of them, whether there's arguing or bickering on the side, they all have a vision that is going in the same direction. And we do not have that in Washington. We really, really don't. Our GM is brand new. Our coach is brand new. And how often can we say that in the last 10 years? How can we say that? How often can we say that in the last, 20 years? Even when we brought in, and I brought this up before in my previous Kirk Cousins video, in regards to head coaching success for this football franchise when that head coach is a Hall of Famer or a previously Super Bowl winning coach. We don't have that in Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden's not that type of coach. I definitely believe that he has the potential to be that kind of a coach, but it's not there yet. And so obviously having a coach that is going to be sustained here in Washington is a big part of the success of this football franchise. And I don't know if we necessarily going to have that in Washington quite yet. Honestly, with the way that we've done things in the past, I can't sit here and say that we're going to sign an extension to Jay Gruden. I've definitely expressed my opinion on Jay Gruden in the past. I do believe that Jay Gruden is a good coach. He may not be the greatest, but I think he's good enough to get where it is that we want to go. I think he's growing and learning. There's definitely things that he needs to improve on, but there are definitely things I think he can improve on. I think he's good enough to improve on those things. But I do believe that one of the things we don't want to do is every single time a coach doesn't get us where we want to go, fire him. That's not how we get to where we want to go. And there are so many Redskin fans out there that want to do that. They insist on doing that. They think that if something doesn't go their way or something doesn't happen for us, we need to fire them. We need to get rid of them. That's not what we do. You take a look at some of the really good football franchises out there, guys. There are teams out there that literally you can count on one hand how many coaching staffs they've had in, honestly, a 50-year time span. Think about that. How many times can you sit there and say that some of these football franchises have gone through more than that? We've gone through these many coaches in 10 years. You can count on both hands how many coaches we've been through in 20. And that's not how you sustain success, man. That's not how you get to where you want to go and maintain it. I want to be able to go to the playoffs. I want to be able to go to a Super Bowl, and I want to be able to sustain that. I want to be a contender every single year, and you don't do that by firing your coach. You don't do that by letting go of quarterbacks at every chance that you get. You get there by believing in people, seeing potential in them, and being able to invest your money in those individuals and hoping that those dividends pay off. You don't want the Daniel Snyder way of doing things, and that's show me first and then I'll pay you. You're going to pay through the nose doing that. Gonna pay through the nose. This is how we got to the Kirk Cousins debacle to begin with. We didn't believe in this kid. We came to the table with $12 million. I don't hate Kirk Cousins for that. I don't hate our organization for that. I don't hate his agent for that. I hate Brock Osweiler for that. I hate that that's what the league minimum was. I hate the fact that that is what the going rate for a Kirk Cousins was going at, but that's not something that's dictated by us or Kirk Cousins and his agent. That's just what the market value is set at. That's what you're playing with if you're looking at having a high dollar value quarterback. I would have loved to have been able to assign Kirk Cousins to a $19 million deal, because I'm guaranteeing you right now it would have looked really, really good on our books at 19 as opposed to 24. There's a difference between 10% and 14%. And that's the part that's frustrating, is that we could have had that. And we need to be able to have substance. We need to be able to have sustained coaching at the highest level. We need to be able to have Jay Gruden for more than just 5 years and then move on to the next guy. That's not how we get to where we want to go. That was one of the biggest drawbacks to bringing Jay Gruden in, is the fact that he's got a team that he didn't inherit, especially at the most important position that he had the most knowledge of, and that was quarterback. Not a guy that he picked. So you know what? If we're going to keep Jay Gruden here, if we want this success that I'm talking about, we've got to start now. How do we do that? We do that by signing our coach to an extension. We do that by signing our GM to an extension. And if you want to sign Kirk Cousins to a $24 million, and my God, do it now. Do it now and take the hit and roll your dice and take your chances. If not, then get rid of Kirk and bring somebody in here that you do believe in, that you can cultivate, and believe in him and then pay him the money. The reasonable market value. Be smart about it. Don't wait till you're backed in the corner and you don't have a choice but pay massive money. That's what we should not have done. And here we are. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe in Kirk Cousins. I think that Kirk Cousins can get us to where we want to go, and I want to see Kirk Cousins remain as a Washington Redskin, but I don't want to do it at the highest dollar value possible because the salary cap plays a much bigger role in the success of your football team than the dollar value of your quarterback. The dollar value of your quarterback is just one side of that cap hit that you're going to take. You've got to be able to play with money to be able to get the talent that you need to get where you need to go. We need a lot of help on defense. I don't know how we address a lot of the issues on defense that we have in the next 2 years if we're strapped at a $24 million, $100 million guarantee contract to Kirk Cousins. And I have no idea if that's even going to be what we sign him to. It could be worse than that. It could be less than that. If we were able to get him for a lot less than that, then somebody deserves to be bought a small island in the South Pacific somewhere. Because that would be a great deal. So having said that, guys, I realize that with some of you taking a look at this video and my opinions of getting Kirk to go somewhere else are souring with you. And I understand that. But do not think that I'm developing that opinion because I don't believe in Kirk. I believe in Kirk. I definitely believe in Kirk. I'm just not willing to pay him $24 million to do it. That's way too high for me. Okay, Joe Flacco's a good quarterback. Doesn't mean I'm going to pay him that kind of money to keep him here. Are you kidding me? No. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. That's not what I want to do. I would rather not do that. I would rather avoid do that. I'd rather take my chances in the draft or free agency. And this brings up another thing. There have been a couple things that have come up. Some things that are worth looking into. Honestly, one of them is going to be popular. The other one's not going to be very popular at all. Go ahead and take a look at this over here real quick. The two things that I'm looking at that are going to be issues in this topic that I have to bring up. One of them is going to be this trade deal. Right now what's hitting social media and it's hitting the media a little bit has been the idea of Kyle Shanahan becoming the next head coach of the San Francisco 49ers and him making a play for a Kirk Cousins if we sign Kirk Cousins to another franchise tag. The way things are going, the different directions that are presenting themselves in regards to the future of Kirk Cousins is leaning a little bit more on the side of us signing him to another franchise tag deal. Which, if we sign him to another franchise tag deal, he will not be here after this upcoming season. He will not be here. There's no way that you're going to be able to pay him that kind of money at the end of 2017. One of the possibilities that has come up in regards to the intention of signing him to a franchise tag deal is the fact that if we do franchise tag him, well, then we can get a dollar value back for him by trading him to San Francisco and getting him back with Kyle Shanahan. I would like, if Kirk Cousins was no longer a Washington Redskin, I would love to see Kirk Cousins reunite with Kyle Shanahan in the NFC West. I love competition on that NFC West. And that's something that's got to happen. That would be great, because I don't think Seattle would know what hit them, honestly, to tell you the truth. Kyle Shanahan is a phenomenal offensive coordinator, and he's been able to prove that not only here, because we haven't really seen the likes of him since, okay, and he's done it in Atlanta. His quarterback in Atlanta is having an MVP-type season. He's having that good of a season, and that's going to pay dividends for him as becoming a head coach. If he ends up becoming a head coach in San Francisco, well, then obviously Kirk Cousins is going to be a person he's going to look at. Getting some sort of dollar value for Kirk Cousins is what I would be looking for. I'm looking at draft picks. That's the most important thing our GM is going to want to get out of him. Now, what kind of draft picks are you going to want to get out? I'm going to tell you right now, there's no way Kyle Shanahan's going to market the future for a quarterback. He's already made that mistake. He's already seen the ramifications of mortgaging your future on a quarterback. Okay, you don't have to look very far back into Kyle Shanahan's history to know exactly what it is I'm talking about. If you're watching this video and you're a Washington Redskins fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So you got to ask yourself, Is he going to be pointing up a lot of first round, second round, third round draft selections for Kirk Cousins? I don't think he is. I don't think he's that dumb. I don't think he's going to sit there and say, sure, take all my draft picks. Take all my high march. After taking a look at the decimation of the San Francisco 49ers, what do we need draft picks for? Just go ahead and give them all to Washington for a quarterback. That's not going to happen, guys. Kyle Shanahan's a little bit better of a coach than that. And I don't think his organization would allow him to do that. However, I would take draft pick compensation. And I don't think I would accept anything beyond a first or second round draft selection. I don't think I would ever accept anything below that. Because if you take a look at the stats, he's worth it. He can get your team there. He's a great, viable quarterback, and he knows exactly what he's doing in a Kyle Shanahan offense, and I'm going to get my value out of San Francisco for that. If San Francisco's not going to go for my deal that's on the table for him, then I don't trade him. I don't trade him. And I'm looking at keeping him throughout the 2016 season, 2017 season, and possibly just letting him walk. You'd have to let him walk. So at this point, you got to ask yourself: walk, compensation. That's the corner. That's another corner we're backing ourselves into. Walk, compensation. There's a kid in there. Who says that Scott McGloin doesn't already have somebody in mind? That $12 million bid that we brought in 2016 makes no damn sense to me, and it shouldn't make sense to a lot of you guys. Why would we come to the table with $12 million when Brock Osweiler, who sucks, signed that big deal, going into Houston? Why would we come to the table with 12? Is it because it's not because that's fair market value for Kirk? It's because that's our value on Kirk. Now, I would feel much more comfortable as a general manager coming to the table and saying, hey, look, I'm going to offer him $12 million and you're not going to get a cent more for him. I would feel more confident saying that to an agent if I knew I had somebody else in mind. If I knew there's this kid coming out of the draft that not anybody else sees, that Jay Gruden likes, I like, and we think we can build on this kid. I think we can get there without paying this high dollar value for a quarterback. So I'm gonna let Kirk dangle in the wind, let him go to another football franchise and be successful, but I'm gonna be smart about that. Maybe if I sign him, even if I sign him to a franchise tag, but I'm looking at this other quarterback. Who is saying that we are not already looking at a quarterback out of the draft? Because coming to the table with $12 million doesn't make any sense to me. Not with the prowess that a Scott McGloin has. I have a feeling that there's another plan already in the works here, and it doesn't include Kirk Cousins. It doesn't. And if that's the case, then I say by all means do it, because we have screwed ourselves in regards to Kirk Cousins. Being able to get a value out of Kirk that is franchise friendly should have been done in 2016. I think we're past the point of no return with him. I think we've wasted all our gas without getting enough to get back home. We got to ditch the ship and call for a rescue. Okay, and if that rescue is going to be a free agent quarterback to come in here for a couple years so that we can sustain some talent coming out of the draft, which is something we're not necessarily notorious for doing, then so be it. Let's do that. We've got a good coach. We've got a good GM. I believe in those guys more than I believe in Kirk Cousins. So let's do that. But other than that, guys, my solutions for this situation are completely, I don't really have them. I wouldn't be surprised if we came up with a long-term deal that was a massive cap wound to this franchise, which to me is one of the worst scenarios that we can be in. Doesn't mean we can't win. Doesn't mean we can't get to the playoffs. It just makes it extremely difficult. And like I said, man, statistics do not favor the Washington Redskins in that scenario, because I just listed it. I just said it. Anywhere above 10%, you're looking at 12%, 13, 14% of your cap going to a quarterback. You're not going to have a whole lot of success, because we are not the Pittsburgh Steelers. We are not the New England Patriots. And we right now are not the Seattle Seahawks. Okay, we are those football franchises that pay too much for their quarterback and don't really go anywhere. So that's going to do it for me, guys. That's going to be my argument for Kirk Cousins. Look forward to some videos that I got coming out here. I'm going to be looking at the NFC East coming this next Thursday. Also, I'm going to mention it again that I didn't mention it before, but also I'm going to have a Q&A in a couple of weeks. So for those of you that want to participate in the Q&A, I've already got some good questions, by the way. For those of you that want to learn more about where my head is at with this football franchise, the direction of the Washington Redskins, if you guys have other questions about me personally, things that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, or what it is that I'm doing, or my history, or whatever it is, the future of this channel, I don't know. Whatever questions it is that's bugging you guys, list them in the comment section here. put them on, you can email them to me at burgundyflyguy.gmail.com. Or at burgundyflyguy@gmail.com. What am I thinking? Go ahead and post them in those two areas. So far, all my questions have come from the comment section. Go ahead and list them in there. I'm keeping track of that. For those of you that are fans and are not fans, if you have questions in there, let me know, and I'll try to answer those in an upcoming future video. I will be answering those questions. So, having said that, guys, that's going to do it for me. So I will see you guys next time. For all of us fans of the Twin Feather, we ride together, Redskins for life. Peace out. See you next time.